You are watching Exertas.
What I'm seeing from the CNN page is that Lilly in March instituted an automatic 35 cap out on out of pocket costs. So that's different than the cost of
Okay.
production or the cost of sale.
Yeah.
What they're saying is that the government or some sort of subsidy will go in and pay Eli Lilly or some other company that's manufacturing this insulin far more necessarily than the 35 cost,
The
which is
cost.
crazy because it doesn't necessarily have to cost that much to make insulin, especially through
It
generics.
shouldn't. There
Right.
are generics coming out. It's still slow, and there's not generics for all of them.
So is this because are they intentionally doing their best to keep people prescribed to drugs that are not available in generics, constantly giving them new drugs, or why do you think that is that we're not on? I mean, at this point, 2024, tried and true generics, right?
Yes, I think that there's a lot of new brands that come to market, and then there's a newer form of insulin. Also, then you've got insurance coverage where they only cover the brand or they only cover the generic. And if they write for one, it's a prior authorization. If this one works better for this person, it takes, I don't know, weeks, or the doctor has to fill out forms. It's a very long process. It also was very long to get insulin to be $35. The paperwork to do it was crazy. And that was like a year ago to try and actually get someone that can't afford it. It took a very long process to do it, which that's
Hey,
not when they need their insulin now.
Wow.
I have a question. Can I ask you something?
Mhm.
So I don't actually know this. I don't know. Like, so Bernie's bill that he had, that was the Medicare for all bill.
Yes.
The Medicare for all bill that was presented, that Nancy Pelosi said it's not time yet, and they didn't. She'd instructed the squad to vote against it. Was this connected, or was it the same bill? Like what?
I don't think so. I'm still confused with Medicare for all. And, I don't know. I just know people
Well, the
keep saying they want
insurance
to like.
companies are a big issue. And so like I'm kind of a bit of a single issue voter when it comes to corporate capture. So I'm like that rotating door where you have CEOs and the like basically
Mhm.
being regulators for the very corporations that they were previously like the that is that's such a core factor of tracing back corruption and influence. And so you're like, if you're wondering, like, I don't want like corporations to be determining policy that directly affects like regular people's lives. And
Yeah.
so and the insurance companies were hell, especially in 2020, like that when people complain about a lot of the stuff that was happening with the hospitals, it's not in many ways as much to do with the doctors and the medical professionals who are, out there in the field.
Yeah.
It's like it's also the fact that the pharmaceutical companies were like, when people are talking about every person that's put on a respirator, they're going to get this much money, and they're like, the hospital gets that much, and people treat it like this is just about the hospital, but the hospital's put in a certain position. It's not dissimilar to the issue we have with this idea to put a price cap on retailers when the manufacturers are more the source of the issue. So you're like, they have overhead. So they're saying, oh, how
Yes.
much am I charging for whatever it is, for these cigarettes? It's like they have a certain amount that they're trying to make what they can out of that, and it needs to be enough to be a living wage for people. So my fear is that would destroy small businesses. The idea when people talked about Kamala Harris as a communist, it really irked me for a long time because I didn't
Oh,
see real evidence of that. But I gotta say that price cap for the retailers was the first time that I was like, oh my god, that approaches that. I'm sorry, but the other thing that approaches that is the way in which Clear Choice, DNC Super PAC, has basically, if you go to their website, if you look at those three sentences, they're basically saying that all third parties are spoilers, and we are seeking to get rid of all third parties. So from my understanding, it's like $1 billion super PAC. And so going after opponents like that, it's like, because when like Putin was elected, and they were like, and there was this whole argument that was like, hey, this is like, how was he able to win with 80% of the vote if he's supposedly so bad? And people made the argument that he suppressed all opponents. And so I want to vote for certain people. I was a big enthusiast for Bernie Sanders and his notice there was no debunking websites on Bernie Sanders math and everything, because he was so based. He really was. And so, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz testified under oath that they had every right to do what they did, sabotaging Bernie's campaign. That was all laid out explicitly. That he won the primaries. He even said so like a month ago on a podcast. Like, if you look in the background when the delegates were announcing state by state that Hillary won the election, you can see delegates holding signs saying Bernie won this state. And they were major like swing states. He was the first candidate to win all 3 caucus states. And if you remember what happened,
Who would have thought that people's livelihood and health would have united so many people? I don't know.
Oh my God.
May I please remind us to stick to insulin, or is it fair to say that? Okay.
I feel like they're related though, because the idea of
it's a weave. It could be a weave.
True.
I've heard about these weaves.
Let's use it to point to insulin though as the example, which is that you could either have socialized medicine where we have benchmarks for prices we want to see manufactured, which I'm a big fan of. I like the idea of having benchmarks for where we want to see essential resources that people need. Like I said, this is something that we invest in having our society sustain itself, like making sure roads exist that are good roads for truckers, right? We want to have medicine that keeps people alive. I think benchmarks are great. That's different though than what we're talking about. We're talking about companies are saying, well, we'll have the government pay $1,000 of tax dollars for a $30 insulin. At that point, it's more like the Air Force One toilet paper rolls for $1,500 to me. And I'd like to see insulin actually just cost $35. I think the idea of can we get it to that price is a good idea, but that's not what we're doing. We're saying, can we cheat that somehow, right?
Yes, and I wish, as a pharmacist, I wish I actually understood even more why it is not like that. I know that it takes research and all, like you have to have the innovation and all this stuff, but I don't know why it would take this long.
May I say? I thought this would be very beneficial to allow everyone to continue speaking. Reading this, Medicare beneficiaries make up about half of all U.S. insulin users. Before the cap, 37.5 of them, or what is 1.5 million people, did pay more than $35 a month. And I wanted to reference Bernie for you, Charlie. Almost 1 million people who are either covered by private health plans, state Medicare programs, or who have no insurance were paying more than $35 per month for their insulin in 2019. The 3 largest insulin makers, Novo Nordisk, Sanofi, I've never heard these, and also Eli Lilly, you mentioned.
Eli for sure.
I gotta check their stock price.
I'll finish after this. They implemented price cuts of up to 78% for some of their insulin products and expanded discounts offered by patients' assistance programs. None of these measures, though, are protected by law, and drug makers can choose to raise prices again. I only wanted to ask, those who are most affected aren't as powerful, of course. So big pharma is quite powerful, and the corporations, I agree with you. If we allow them to make it so high that no one can afford, or it's arbitrary when and how supply and demand works, that always works into the favor of kind of a very ultra capitalistic taking advantage of those who are truly sick, which I think we're
I like the use of the word ultra there, because it's not a normal. So in a capitalist system, so this is what's different there, right? An ultra insular group is controlling the resources because it's almost impossible. I would go one further. It's not just about the innocent people with diabetes. No, it's even the innovators who are unable to innovate because it's hundreds of billions of dollars and so many levels of legislation away that if you're not Eli Lilly, you're not going to get to do this unless Eli Lilly buys you. And so for them to control what kind of plane we get to fly in and what kind of drugs we get to have, there's no room for innovation anymore. This is beyond. And so, this is also, I hate to say it like this, but what is the biggest benefit to a company is like the right to try, right? Because the right to try then says, hey, these are people that will die without medicine. Sure, we can make this really expensive product from Eli Lilly, but maybe also there's alternatives. However, we've forbidden any company from researching these alternatives unless we have the right to try. So maybe that's a benefit. I don't know.